All right, 7 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes. Hi.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Plumby?
Here.
Councilmember Graves?
Here.
Councilmember Saper?
Here.
Councilmember Tull? Here. Councilmember Smith?
Hello.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Present.
And Councilmember Roberts is absent.
All right, next up, Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Clark this evening. Thank you. Next up, I will be removing items 15 and 16 from the agenda tonight per the developer. As well, since we are removing item number 16, the opportunity for public comment on the Chapter 100 bond matter is being continued to the October 19th, 2021 meeting, commencing at 7 p.m. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Council,
I would like to
Councilmember.
remove items 13 and 14 from the consent agenda for discussion, please.
Okay, we will remove 13 and 14 from the consent agenda, and those will come up first on the regular agenda. Councilmember Saper. 11 and 12 will be removed and added to the regular agenda, and we will do that. We'll just continue in that same order on the regular agenda. Other amendments to this. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
Move to approve the amended consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will start with number 11. Did you have a specific question? You want to go on a staff report on this? How do we?
Brian,
Actually,
I'm sorry, excuse me.
we need to do comments from the public.
There we go. Thank you, Crystal. Man, moving right along there. Comments from the public. So much action, I just got ahead of myself. Oh, sorry. Let me turn your podium on. There we go. I think I got you on now.
How about now?
I got you. Thank you.
Yay. I could have used my loud teacher voice, but that would not have been nearly as easy. So I live at 2414 Erie, and I am here to say thank you so much for your immediate action on putting a trash can at 23rd and Fayette. And I have used that several times. Dead squirrel parts on the sidewalk that the dog picks up and is in her mouth, poopy bags, trash on the ground. Love having a trash can there. And I wondered about 26th and Howell, because that's right on the corner by the high school. That would be such a good place. I mean, there's several other places, but that's like my most immediate need right now. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys.
Perfect.
Gals.
Thank you. Further public comments this evening?
I'm Elizabeth Ryan, 2417 Erie, North Kansas City. I'm calling in regard to number 13 and 14. I'm very, we, the residents of the city, put the council, that's why we put you here. And you're to work for us. And I think that you want to give $10,000. I think that's not enough. Some of you are in the building, and you know, I just got through putting up a railing. I put up things. I put down things to my basement. I know what it cost. This $10,000 is nothing. And the taxpayers, and this is the taxpayers in North Kansas City. Number one, they pay city tax, and they pay county tax. And it's for them. And I just can't see it. You don't hesitate for the tax immigrant or anything else. And this is just a little bitty thing. I think it should be nothing less than $12,000. I'm just kind of really disappointed. I can't see it. I think it's for our residents. If it was for somebody else, I could see it. But this is for us. These seniors, a lot of them live there. I'm very active in the Parks and Recreation. I'm with the seniors. I'm with them a lot. I play cards with them. I play bingo with them. I go on trips with them. I know their situation. And I think this is just, I can't imagine that you would only go 10,000. I think nothing less than 12,000. And that's all I have to say. I'm really disappointed. And second item, I got 5 minutes. I want to thank you, Lisa, for that about the hospital. And when they announce it, well, and the council people, their board, well, when it comes time for the council to speak, it's in your packet. It's all about North Kansas City, and it's also about the why. Well, people that watch Channel 2, they don't see that. You have people that are 92 years old, and the seniors, do they have to get up and get a computer to find out what it is? It only takes a minute to tell those results. And I just feel it's really kind of necessary. Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next up for public comments.
Dave Wood, 2414 Erie. Liz stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to mention that 10,000 as well, but in the same context, we're spending these 3.8 whatever for the city beautification, 600 grand to remodel upstairs. Since our last meeting, I've had a lot of conversations with folks, almost exclusively out of Ward 3. The folks in Ward 3 are not thrilled with you guys at all, if I may speak for them. They've been asking for sidewalks and streetlights and all kinds of things for years. And here we go, we're throwing money at all kinds of other projects that, if you really think about it, and Mr. Saper was exactly right, $4 million to tear down the mill or $600,000 to remodel upstairs, that doesn't do anything for the residents. It's probably necessary in the long term, but you know what? The residents need some long-term help as well. So I think, all of you are elected officials. We're great about doing things for the businesses, this streetscape beautification thing. Somebody even mentioned, it's to put on a good face for the people that come here, not the people that live here, the people that come here. So why don't we do some things for the people that live here? I'd like to see some of that, and I get that some of this is old business and you guys are just trying to fight your way through it, but all of you up there claim to be visionary and you all ran on, I want to do this, I want to do that. You want to change things, and we'll get to this shared vision here in a minute, but seems to me, and not just me, but a lot of folks that I've spoken to, and I've had quite a few conversations since the last time I was here, a lot of folks feel the same way. So if you're not reaching out, or if you're reaching out to a select few people, I suggest you reach out to a few people that don't agree with you and listen to what they have to say, because you're supposed to represent all of us, not just the people you like, not just your friends, not just your business friends. You're supposed to represent all of us. And there are some things going on that I'm telling you, a lot of folks don't like. Now, a lot of them can't be here. A lot of them are afraid to speak up, which I think speaks for itself right there. People are afraid to speak up. That shouldn't be. People should be wanting to speak up, because part of it is they don't think you listen. So my advice would be, you got to start listening, not to just your friends, not just to people that agree with you or that you agree with. You need to start listening to everybody, if you're not already, because a lot of people out there are just not thrilled with the direction of this council. We talk about, I asked you specifically, Mr. Mayor, last time I was here, about this shared vision that you've mentioned a few times. I haven't heard anything. Councilmember Tull made an attempt to explain that it's contained in the master plan. It's bigger than that. It's beyond that. An example, and I've got lots of examples, but one example I want to bring to you because of what happened last week with Mr. Dunn speaking up. It appears, it looks like from the outside looking in, that there are a select few of you that are really trying your best to move out the old folks and bring in the young folks. Not necessarily an equitable or inclusive approach, if you ask me, because a lot of old folks out there have a lot of great experience. They may not agree with everything that you want to do, but I think you do the entire city a disservice if you don't put dissenting opinions on these boards and commissions, right? A lot of people are pretty smart. They may not agree with you, but their take, their perspective is valuable to the operation of these boards and commissions. So just to load them up with the people that agree with you or because they're young, right? I think you're doing a huge disservice to this community by leaving out a very huge demographic, right? The age group 25 to 34, whatever it is, it might be the biggest age group, that little group, but the age group of 55 and older is still very big. Ms. Ryan mentioned that as well. I mean, there's a lot of good experience out there that I feel like you're not taking full advantage of. She also mentioned, we depend on you guys. Yeah, you got to look out for the businesses, and that's all great, but you got to look out for the people that vote for you, us residents, right? We need you to look out for us. Mr. Saper said it very well. What's in it for us, right? We've got apartments going up everywhere. You got parking lots. You're spending money on parking lots. I mean, where's the stuff that really is going to benefit the residents in the long term? It's not apartments and it's not parking lots. So Ward 3 specifically, I think you really, really need to pay some attention to that. I know Ward 4 gets overlooked a lot. And like I said, looking at the balance of some of these boards and commissions, some of these boards and commissions are way overrepresented by some wards and very underrepresented by other wards. And rather than this ageism or whatever you want to call it about trying to get your specific people on there, I think that needs to be looked at because you need a broader measure of representation all the way across the board, whether they agree with your vision or not. I think you're doing us a disservice by creating this tunnel vision effect. I think you need to get more people with more diverse opinions. I don't care if they're black or white, I don't care. I don't care if they're 100 or if they're 37, right? You need some diverse opinions and some diverse approaches to really make this thing work for everybody, which is what a lot of you ran on. You want it to be more inclusive, more diverse. We're not being very inclusive and diverse. From the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. And we all know what perception is. My perception is my reality. So I'm looking to you all to change our minds and show us that you really got our best interest at heart. Thanks.
Thank you. Further public comments?
You knew I would, though.
I offer to everybody.
All right. I'm Lauren Wells. I live at 22nd and Knox. A lot of ground has been covered. One thing I would like to echo is I think that the Northland neighborhoods and the rebuilding together thing, I really think that should be increased because I saw the work session on that, and those organizations are doing a ton here, and they could do so much more if they had more budget, and there really is a need for it. Like, I live in the Avenues. There's a lot of older people just in my immediate area, So that would be, the thing is that we are under a heavy gentrification project. I see it. Everybody sees it. It is what it is, right? But from the community's standpoint, it would be nice if you could scratch the community's back a little bit too. You know what I mean? So throwing a little more money at projects like that to appease the community would be probably a good strategy. None of us want to see these big, things coming in. We don't want that. It's not why we love North Kansas City. But are we going to stop it? Probably not. It would be nice to see resources utilized better. Like looking at the streetscape project that was just discussed. Have we looked at the infrastructure or like the pipes and stuff underneath the ground right there? Have we thoroughly examined those areas? I don't know. Does anybody have an answer by chance on that?
Yes,
We
are.
We are before we start that project? Is that budgeted for, and where is that?
I don't have the full scope of what we've seen underground right there.
Just a real quick comment. That is an audit of our water, sewer, and sanitary sewer. Over the
Okay.
next 3 years, we'll be doing an extensive audit.
Okay.
It is not part of the downtown streetscape project, but it is mindful. We are very mindful of the age and condition. I'll be honest, there's a lot of our infrastructure, we don't know the
And that's
condition.
fine, but before we start a $3.7 million project, I think we should be thoroughly examining that. Don't you think? Because it just looks crazy otherwise. Like, what are we doing? And then if we get a problem 2 years down the road, oh, sorry, we have to spend another mill to tear up this section. Anyway, that's fine. Going forward, let's see. Also on the streetscapes thing that y'all just went over, I saw in the survey that was done whenever that was done, somebody or a couple of people had mentioned the crosswalk lights at those intersections being problematic, being in disrepair, being slower, not being, I don't know what the issue was, but there's an issue there. There's a crosswalk. It's a safety. It's like, should be huge. We should be really, over the nice, like, pretty aesthetics. What about making sure people cross the street safely? Anyway, thank you. That's pretty
Perfect.
much it.
Thank you. Further public comments? Seeing none, we will move on now. Crystal's blessing here to number. You're gonna call me out here. Number 11, I believe.
We
Oh,
need
she
to
shook her head no.
approve the consent agenda
See,
as
you gotta
amended.
keep me in order up here. We did not approve. Okay, we got to approve the remaining things on the consent agenda. So this would be the amended consent agenda. Okay, is there a motion to approve the remaining consent
I
agenda?
would like
items?
to move to approve the remaining items of the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item 11, resolution approving indemnity agreement with letter agreement between the city and 408 Armor LLC.
And I believe this will cover both 11 and 12. But did you have particular questions?
Yes, my
Councilmember
questions are, it's my understanding, and I think it was presented by our city councilor there, that we are indemnifying no matter what the costs are. And the question I have is, our insurance covers up to a certain point. What point is that?
The insurance,
Yeah.
let me double check. I believe it is right here. $3 million per occurrence and $3 million aggregate.
And beyond that point, we would be responsible as a
Well,
city.
we also, yes, but we also, on top of that, we also have another $1 million and an umbrella of an additional $5 million. So we're talking more like $8 or $9 million total.
So in fact, it seems that insurance is bulky enough to cover any costs that would be incurred.
I would assume so, but I guess catastrophic events could, happen. Don't forget, in addition to our insurance on this, there's also insurance that Northland Festivals acquire separately, and theirs is a little bit less than that, but nevertheless, it's several $1 million more, okay? And on, as far as the carnival area goes, they are required to have additional insurance, okay? So there's, I guess you can say there's 3 different sources of insurance for what occurs on Northtown Devco property.
Okay.
Technically, it's 2 separate entities now, but it's still, the overall owner
Yeah.
is Northtown Devco.
Well, that was my concern, was just how much exposure we have.
We still have some exposure.
I mean, theoretically, yes.
Yes.
But in a practical sense.
We
it
don't
look-
just have $1 million worth of insurance or
Okay,
something
that's
like
exactly
that.
the kind of discussion I wanted to have here. That was my question on
Perfect.
polling.
Thank you so much. Other council member comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve item 11.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. All right, next item, number 12, the similar item.
Move
Okay, we
to,
have
move to approve item 12.
Second.
first and second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Okay, number 13, agreement with Northland Neighbors Incorporated for minor home repair program, resolution number 21-078.
And briefly, I will touch on some of the comments I heard there. I would tend to agree. I think the number should be higher. And I think this is also, recognize this is a new program. This is the program we just started up, finally got the language all right to get this on the agenda this evening. And so I think we threw a number out there, but I think we were all probably willing to find a higher number.
Did they not? They asked for the 10,000, right? Like, that was not a number
I
we
can't
came
remember
up with.
exactly where that
I
original
remember.
number, that's what.
Yeah, because like that, we wouldn't have just invented a number.
Yeah.
I remember.
We didn't argue against a higher number.
Yeah, you did. There was a discussion revolving around a number. They said that it was asked what Gladstone was contributing, which was established at 10. Councilmember, I believe it was Saper, threw out a suggestion to do 20.
I do recall. Yeah.
Myself, being a negotiator, tried to split the difference and go to 15. And it was established that we should do 10. It was what was approved because you guys said that when we run out of funds, then we can go back and increase funds. But there was a fear that if we set the number too high, then that number would just stay static in the future because budget items typically don't go down, they go up or stay the same.
That's right.
I do recall, yeah, so, yes.
That was a conversation.
So we looked at always being able to lift the ceiling on this.
I know that because I
as-
went back and
yeah.
watched the work session video like a couple more times this week.
Yeah.
And the reason I pulled these two items from the consent agenda is actually because I don't think the language is actually correct in these items. And the interim city administrator and I went back and forth on an email exchange because I want to make sure that, just like the comments from the public, I want to make sure that these funds are for people in our community and not landlords and not, like, there's a trend right now where you have like wealthy people buying their kids a bungalow kind of thing. And I don't want these funds to be used for non-owner occupants. And we talked about it during our work session, and it was agreed upon that these funds would not be used for non-owner occupants. But if you read the text of item 13 and 14 in the agreement, it just keeps referring to homeowner, homeowner, homeowner. And you can be a homeowner and not live in the home. So if somebody's rich uncle in Briarcliff West buys them a bungalow and their 22-year-old child is living in the bungalow, then I don't want to see these funds being used to fix up some guy's daughter's bungalow that he owns and he makes $400,000 a year kind of thing. And so I would like to, first of all, just stick the word owner-occupant before homeowner, and I'm good with these. I wasn't going to bring this up, but after listening to comments from the public, would you guys like to entertain increasing the budgets? Because I would be in favor.
I certainly think we can, and I would still stand by the fact that we could always, continue to raise it as we need. But I also want to make sure we don't get to a point where we're ever denying an application because of the process it takes to increase the budget, if that makes sense. I saw a couple hands there. I got Council. Well, let me start with you.
I just have
Something you're looking for here before I keep going around.
one quick comment. The owner occupant, the only thing that I would like clarity of is a lot of estate planning. They will put the home into a trust. Again, that is very popular, especially for those who may be mature in their age. It is part of tax planning and it is part of estate planning. Would your thought be, because that home would legally be in a trust,
That's a good
the
point.
definition of owner occupied, I do fear that there would be concern about that. So I'm open to dialogue, but it's something that as we were kind of mulling over some of the requests, I'm unsure how staff would understand your direction.
That's a really good point. My aunt who lives in Northgate Village, her home is in a trust, but she owns it. She lives there. I'm pretty sure it's extremely simple to verify who the executor of the trust is and verify that that's the owner of the property. Because you also have situations where it might be owned by a trust and they're renting the property, or their grandkid lives there or something along those lines. So I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Ooh, okay. Good one. Okay, now we're going to go around. I saw Councilmember Clevenger first, and then we'll get back to this.
Couple things. Thanks for bringing up like the owner occupant, however the wording or however we work it out. Basically, I think the gist of it is that the people that live in the homes that either own the home or it's in a trust form, we certainly, that's how we want. I'm in agreement with Councilmember Graves as far as like if it's a landlord or rental home, those would not qualify. Quick question. Certainly, hear the residents, and open to increasing it. I know that the budget has already been done, and approved, so if, you want to increase it, that would be a budget amendment. On these organizations, if I remember correctly, were they using grant money, and then we were supplementing if they went over on a project? Or does anybody remember? I know we talked about that.
I'm happy to answer that. They are able to, specifically Northland Neighborhoods is very good at receiving CDBG funding as well as grant funding. So what they would use the city funding for would be last, meaning what they would try to do is utilize their other resources first to fund those particular projects, and then utilizing the city's. Again, one of the things that we had discussed when we brought this forward was because there is no local match, they are often unable to pair matching grant funding because there's no local match. So having a local match helps them do bigger and better projects because it helps meet the parameters of those grant programs.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, and I would agree. It should benefit the person who lives in and owns the home, but the trust issue is a good one. My home is in a trust, and if somebody went out to verify, that document is not something they could just grab. So to find the executor isn't necessarily a simple process. Who would be approving an application that came through this? Would that go to staff?
So those would go to Northland Neighbors and Rebuilding. I'm going to kind of group these two items because I know that they're separate items on the agenda, but they're very similar in spirit.
Sure.
They have robust staff. This is what they do, is specifically because they often pair it with grant funding. They have due diligence that they have to do. They are audited on a yearly basis. So they do that particular, it's part of the professional services that they utilize. It's one of the reasons why we chose to partner with them for this particular program.
And so if we give them that directive, regardless of the legalese that's in the document, they should understand that that's our intent and approve on that basis?
That's how they do it with most of the other cities that they partner with. Is it, when in preparation for that particular work session, one of the questions that we had, only because of the demographic information we know from North Kansas City, we do have a high rent. So we were wondering, and I don't know if you guys remember, it was one of the directional questions we asked, is should rental units be part of this program? You guys gave us direction of no. And one of the things that they had said was no other community utilizes, allows a style of program for rentals. Some are considering with the home modification program, again, the people who have those devastating life illnesses or something has happened to them, they rent that particular area. And that's where we kind of got into, is that something that the city council and the direction that was given to us was no?
Okay. And to Dave and Liz's point, the 10,000, as Wes mentioned, we had a back and forth about it. It's mostly a plug figure for a first-year program. It can grow over time, and there will be more funds to match with it. So we're gonna, I would move to keep it where it is, and just if there's more need, it would come back to us for approval. And I don't think anybody here is looking to say no. So that's just to answer the concern.
Okay, I saw a couple hands. Was yours up? Okay, I was going to give you a first crack at the floor here, and then we'll go.
I actually would be in favor of bumping it up to 15,000, just because it is a new program. I think this would be the year where we saw the majority of repairs kind of happen, and then hopefully over the years we would see that number kind of come down because we've done some of these repairs, and so there is less need for that money. So if we don't use the funds, they're there. So I think that would make it easier than having to come back and make, amendments to the agenda every time we had an increase in the need for it. So I think if we just go ahead and bump it up to 15 for each party, I think that would be fair. And what we don't use, then we have it for the next year.
Okay, well, first of all, I'll check on the budget master here. I'm guessing you're good with whatever number we plug in here.
So it'd be 15, am I assuming correctly, it's 15 for both, so an overall impact for $10,000 more than what's in the budget?
Correct.
Yes, the budget could be amended and a lot for those costs.
I know we're good, but I always got to check on the budget master here. Councilmember Told and Councilmember Graves.
Thank you for pulling this, Councilman Graves. I remember arguing against doing any work with rentals, but after hearing Liz and hearing you talk about, I know that nobody else is doing it yet, but for the home modification program, so putting in grab bars or a ramp, the homeowner would have to be okay with it, but I think that that could help people stay in their homes. And I know that I argued against that the first time, but in hearing Liz, and we've got people with those specific needs, it wouldn't be a cosmetic upgrade, it would be a necessity for being mobile and getting in and out of their homes and their bathrooms safely. So probably not the time to make big changes like that, I don't know, but in hearing her talk, and I'm really sorry to blow this up, I'm thinking, that could be really good. That could help people.
So home modifications is what you're thinking for rental properties? Yeah. Yeah. On
I mean,
14.
just saying that we wouldn't reject it immediately because it was a rental property. I mean, the homeowner would have to say, yes, you can put grab bars in the bathroom.
Yeah. We'll go right around here. Safer graves.
Again, I'm disturbed. We, really didn't seem to blink much at all when we went from 3 million to 4 million for a picture postcard beautification project. But here we're talking about 10,000, 15, 20,000, and we're agonizing over it. This is something to help people, and initially I had hoped we would go as a start at least 20,000. We're not talking about an extra $1 million here. We're talking about $20,000 to actually benefit and help people. And to me, that should be a no-brainer.
Now we're finally getting back around to you. Councilmember Graves.
I just want to say amen to what Anthony just said, and then furthermore, putting the terminology owner-occupant into these contracts is extremely important, because just because those of us sitting around here today know the intent of these funds are to be used by owner-occupants, I hate to break it to you guys, but we're not going to be around forever. So if owner-occupant is not in this contract, there might be people sitting up here 10, 20 years from now that are reinterpreting what's in here, and all it says is homeowner. And you can be a homeowner and not live in the property. So that's first point. Second point, I meant to bring this up during the work session, and I didn't. But another reason why we might want to increase our budget greater than Gladstone is our homes here are older than Gladstone. I mean, we have, the house I live in is 100 years old. And the neighborhood that Liz Ryan lives in, I mean, there's houses around here that are 100 years old. So I realize Gladstone is a larger community, but as Councilmember Smith can attest, I'm sure, we have houses here that are in very poor condition. And this is I know this is not a large sum of money, but it's extremely important so that we can keep some of these people in their homes so they can age in place, because these older people are an important part of our community. And I do not want to see them squeezed out because they don't have a ramp in their house or they don't have grab bars in their shower. It's a small sum of money. So I would be in favor of increasing the budget to 15 or even 20. And just last point to Councilmember Toll, rental properties are by definition for-profit entities. If you own rental property, you own that property to make a profit. I am not in favor of using $1 of these funds for a rental property. If there's a rental property that needs changes done to the property, then that's on the landlord. I don't think it's appropriate to use taxpayer funds for such a situation. And that's it for me.
All right. Councilmember Clark.
I think my understanding of the match grant, I think that's where our heads were even last time, is almost like, how do we achieve it quickly to show success the fastest way possible? And then we all planned, I think, to build upon that 10,000. And I'm wondering, I think everyone up here is for giving it as much money as we possibly can budget, but I'm wondering if you might know, as far as like the achievement of the match grant and how we just are sitting in this space where it's not really been done before, how does that increasing the amount affect that?
So that's a bit of a moving target.
Okay.
And the reason being is I cannot forecast how much grant funding is out there, nor can I, because it is really, the amount of grant funding is really case by case, meaning this individual homeowner, what are the repairs needed? What is this individual homeowner's income level look like? Because there's a spectrum of grant funding available. So it's really, really difficult for me to kind of give a broad base, and that's where I kind of really look to Deb Herman and to Clay with their expertise of how do they go about matching those funds. But definitely one of the benefits of having a local match program is that it allows them to double stack and make a greater impact. Really, we don't know. It's the first year.
Right.
We really don't know. We have a suspicion of what the need in the community is, but we really won't know until the program launches and we start getting those applications in.
Yeah, I think it's just worth kind of pointing out that we didn't just sit here and go, you know what, it's just local people, we're not going to really help. We truly were trying, Liz, she's looking at me. No, but we really were. I know, I can pretty much speak for everybody. We were thinking pretty heavily, like, how does this weigh out? How do we make this a big win for the city and build upon it? Because I can easily see us doubling it, tripling it, if we feel like it's really taking off and working out well, so we're not running through litigious issues or rental properties and things like that. And I think we were just looking at that popularity. But I would be in favor of increasing the budget to the 15,000 per.
Yeah, and I, as I recall more of that conversation, I think we were just getting stuck on the number, where to me, the important point was getting the program. The number was always a placeholder in a lot of ways, but if we want to increase it for that initial amount, and I'm sorry I skipped over you, did you have something else you were reaching earlier? Councilmember Toll.
Yeah, I was just going to say I can pull off the, after hearing Councilman Graves, we can pull off the assistance, which was not for everything, but for the home modification program. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of support for that, so don't even worry about it, Kim. Nobody else is doing it, and I'll take it off the table.
So let me.
Go ahead.
I was going to try to bring this all together again. I've heard a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff, but I haven't heard any. There've been no motions or amendments made so far. So if people want to start amending things sometime soon.
I move that we,
I saw his hand. You got it right now. Councilmember Graves.
I move that we add terminology restricting to owner occupants only, and that can include people that live in a trust situation, own the property in a trust situation, if we can verify that they're owner occupant. And I would like to increase the budget to $20,000 per bucket.
Okay, we have a two-part motion there to, I guess, to summarize, strengthen the owner occupancy terminology per his wording and increase the budget amount to $20,000 per program. And you got that, Crystal?
I have that.
Okay, that is the motion. Is there a second?
Can I ask a question?
Please, go ahead.
I know you had mentioned it before, but finding out who the trust belongs to, I know we're not doing it. They would be doing it, correct? Because okay. Just wanted to know whose responsibility that was.
Second.
Okay, now there's a second, and we are on to Councilmember Clevenger.
Oh, I was going to second it, and I was just going to ask, any remaining money could go back into the program for the next year then? Is that correct? If it's not used?
Well, just like any other fund, any remaining funds will be reprogrammed for the next
Okay,
year.
yeah, right.
But that would be, when we come forward of those budget work sessions, if you guys would want to maintain that amount, then we would program that amount again.
Okay.
Am I allowed to double approve these resolutions, or do I need to do this individually now? Individually. Dang it, screwed that one up. Okay, we'll still say the motion stands because I heard 20,000 per program.
Right.
So that'll apply. We're at least in order here. So what we are voting on right now is item number 13, Resolution 21078. All those in favor with the amendments, please say yes.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item, number 14. Oh, taking over, Crystal.
Agreement with Rebuilding Together Kansas City Incorporated for a minor home repair and home modification program, resolution number 21-079.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 21079 with amendments?
move to approve.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Councilmember Smith.
So I would echo Lisa's point. This is a point that I made the first time around for the minor home repair. Which one is this? Is 14. So what is the term on it? Minor
Modification.
Home
the
modification.
modification program. So to Councilman Gray's point, yes, landlords are operating for profit. However, if one of my tenants now requires grab bars for the tub, it would either be for me, or I can allow them to leave the property, and then they don't get to age in place, because that is a repair or a modification that it would cost money for the landlord, that adds no value to the property beyond the tenant that is there. then the landlord has to remove those for the next tenant more often than not. So this would be a net benefit to the renter. So if somebody's living in a place that they need the accommodations, it would be a benefit to them to allow them to age in place. So I would support it for rental properties on a limited basis for those who really demonstrate the need for those modifications. And that was the point I made last time. I would agree with what Lisa had to say, and I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
Councilmember Graves.
I feel strongly in opposition to that. If you have a tenant that needs a wheelchair ramp installed and you own rental property that you are making income on, then unless you are, I'll bite my tongue on that, but you should pay for the wheelchair ramp as the landlord who is making a profit off of that rental property.
Further, was there a first and second? Did we get that far?
Yes.
Okay. I could really see that issue either way. It is important we have that discussion of making sure people age in place and making sure we do have these programs available.
Well,
And some of it's pretty simple stuff, like you mentioned, having grab bars, having, if
we've
maybe
seen it.
there's a limit on what you spend on that, because obviously you don't want that to go out of control. You don't want too much spending on landlord-owned.
We've seen where we can't even get landlords to fix things that are the most basic things that should be just basics for houses, and asking these same landlords to install a wheelchair ramp, it's just not going to happen on their cost. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, is if the landlord's not going to do it, but they'll approve it if it's going to be funded through this program, the person living there gets their ramp, the person living there gets their grab bars. That's important. So that's why I support it.
And I think, like you said, there's no real value add for the landlord.
No, it's all.
The value add is for the resident.
Yeah, it's almost a loss in value to the property to have those sort of things added.
Then you got to probably take them out later, too.
That's right.
Okay. Well, there is a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Councilmember Palumbi.
Can I just add something? Because
Please.
from what I remember from our discussions, I think it was with Clay, is they had some reusable ramps that they could kind of lend to someone who, in Jesse's point, maybe would just have it while that certain, occupant is in there, and then would be removed pretty easily from what he kind of alluded to. So in that sense, I do think that in these scenarios, that might be appropriate, is using those reusable ramps or reusable materials as part of the grant instead of having to purchase a whole new ramp. And that would fall under the owner of the home. So I do think that we could look at it from that aspect.
Okay. We do have a motion and second on the floor, though, so we will have to take a vote on the original, which was the owner-occupant only, increasing the amount to $20,000. Further, council, did I get that correct, Crystal?
That's correct.
There we go. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How does it work? If we vote no on this, do we reassess?
So then the amendment, then you go back to the original. Tom will correct me if I'm wrong here, I hope. Then we go back to the original, and then you could pass as original or propose further amendments. Correct? Okay, sorry. If the vote is no on this amended resolution,
Can they go back?
then it rolls back to the original resolution where they can further approve that or amend it. Okay. There we go. We on board? Okay. There we go. All those in favor of the amended resolution, please say yes.
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 Roll call, please. Okay. Oh, no. Everyone say no. Okay, there we go. Roll call. There, I'll skip a portion.
Councilmember Clark?
Weird.
Clarity.
I have
Okay.
questions.
For clarity, yeah, a yes vote would be to vote.
As we had discussed,
As
not
we had
allowing the
discussed.
modifier that Anna mentioned.
Owner
where-
occupants only 20,000.
Yes.
Right. Then
That
I'll
would
say
be-
no
Okay.
to my own motion. Feels good.
Councilmember Palumbi?
No.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
No.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
The motion carries 4-3. Oh, that's your roll, isn't it?
4-3.
Thank you. Thank you for the pickup there. All right, the next item is now,
Can I just,
please.
what you will see come forward in a future agenda is a budget amendment. Just, I'm sorry to be the procedural person here, but we will need to amend the budget to allow proper funding for the agreements you guys just made amendments to.
One last comment I have is that after hearing her, hearing you, and just thinking of someone trying to age in place that happens to need a wheelchair, whatever it might be, a wheelchair ramp, and then knowing that they have to make this choice, right? And that we could have provided something temporary, versus them going, I'll figure it out because I don't want to lose this place or lose this set rent or lose my everything because, things can't be provided. I don't know. That's my feel good for right now.
There you go. Thank you. Next item.
Item 17.
There we
Bloom
go.
NKC Development Agreement and Real Estate Sale Agreement. Bill number 7631, ordinance number 9428.
I would have read 15, so I'm glad you're
I-
here.
It's okay.
Kim?
Good afternoon, or good evening, Mayor and Council. Sorry, it's been a long day. In the staff memo, we provided a little bit of history on the Northgate Village redevelopment project, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory. Northgate Village was identified in 1996 as a prime area for redevelopment, so this particular project has been going on for quite some time. The city adopted the Northgate TIF plan in 2000, and again, just for historical knowledge, this TIF plan is actually very unique as we are the beneficiary of this particular TIF fund. That is pretty rare in the industry. So just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, we are here tonight to talk about the last city-owned property within Northgate Village. That is the reason why we're here today. We're here to discuss a development and real estate agreement for approximately 2.7 acres along Burlington between East 29th and East 22nd. The city did put out a proposal for a new developer of the city-owned commercial property in Northgate Village in September of 2020. The city accepted the proposal of Box Real Estate Development, known as Bloom NKC, for this particular project, and entered into negotiations with the developer for the sale and development of the property. Now before the council for your consideration are the fully negotiated agreements for both the development agreement and the real estate sale agreement. I would like to introduce the Bloom NKC team. If you guys can approach the podium. Russell Pearson and Justin Larson, who will give a presentation on this particular project. And after their presentation, we will review the business terms of the agreement. So with that, Russell.
Hello.
On?
Am I on? I got you on there. You're
Awesome.
on. There
Great.
we go. There's some-
Well, thank you, council. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here. Really excited. I'll try to use the clicker. Real brief overview. I've been an industrial commercial real estate agent for the last 15 years, and before that, I worked for my family's sheet metal fabrication plant. And so I've been coming to North Kansas City on business for 20 years or so, and recently for fun. So it's really been a neat transition to see what the city's gone through in the last few years. So I'm humbled and very excited to be here today to share with you what we're thinking. So Box Real Estate Development is our team, myself and Justin, and two others. Also here today with Mark from Polsinelli. Our landscape architect for this project is Auctioneer Hare, and civil engineering firm is Olson, both based in North Kansas City. And our architect for the project is Clockwork. All of those firms are award-winning. We're really excited and honored to work with them as well. So I won't belabor the point too much, but our company is a small boutique development firm. We came from established careers, and our goal can be distilled down to work on projects we think are fun. So that's what we apply our craft to, and we find this one pretty fun. We're really excited about it. It's what we do. We work on a number of historic renovation and master planning, land development. We try to think at least 100 years in the future, which is hard to do when you're young and have the a century ahead of you. But that's our kind of minimum standard for projects. We focus on stewardship of, we feel like we're stewards of the environment, of investors' equity is part of it as well, but also the land itself, because what we do as real estate developers changes the path of many people's lives for years. So it's important. The site is the last remaining site in Northgate, which is awesome to be a part of that. And we get to put the sizzle on the steak a little bit, icing on the cake. We took this to be a bit of a gateway to North Kansas City. So that was the standard that we held it to from our standpoint. When we first were approached, we were asked to come give to review the RFP and respond by Olson. We initially jumped to one of our previous projects and thought, man, it would be really cool to do an industrial version of this. It'd be awesome. And then we said, time out, let's do our homework and validate and make sure we explore all options before we jump to conclusions. So we started doing some research on the area and previous studies and reports that were done and find out what the goals were. So this was a word cloud that came from the Burlington Corridor Complete Street Plan from 2016. And these were the goals that came from a public meeting for the entire corridor. And so these were the first things we wanted to do was try to honor these goals. And then we dove into the North Kansas City history. We found some of the historic architectural drawings online or documents, and there's a really neat past to it. In particular, you'll notice the bottom left one, the Palmer House. It was commercial on the main floor with, I think it was hotel originally on the second and third floor, and then a filling station out front. And so, do you know where this was? Awesome. It was on the south side of the city, right? It was on the south side of the city? So it wasn't on this site? Perfect. And awesome. So I think it's been taken down, if I'm not mistaken. But it was, at the time, it was the gateway to North Kansas City. So that was the reason for it. The site itself was part of a master planned residential development that had fallen into disrepair. And I'm probably repeating some background that a lot of you already know, but that entire Northgate area was one of the first master planned communities in the city, in the entire metro area, and it was designed to bring residents closer to where they work. So that'll obviously play a part of the idea. And obviously, North Kansas City has a really cool industrial aesthetic to it that's even unique when compared with other industrial markets in the city. The lower setback just has a really, really cool, distinct feel to it. So that we wanted to stick with a modern industrial design for the project. We looked at some of the work that we're doing. These are renderings from a project we're doing in Shawnee called Bloom Shawnee. And it has residential and commercial space. And so we settled on a concept for what we've called vertical mixed-use townhomes. And so that's a term we made up. It's the closest description we can come to for this. It's basically a type of project that it's not an apartment. It's more like a single-family house, but it's really based on the European most prolific design style, just brought to the United States. It's probably the most common property type in the world. I'd be interested for someone to prove me wrong on that front, but I think it is. I think it's very, very common, at least in Europe. But we just don't have a lot of it in the United States based on when the automobile versus the cities developed. So essentially, it's an individually platted and owned property, like a townhome in that regard. That's separated by a demising wall. And one of the key elements of people staying a long time is having a private entry. So these are private entries. They're both for the commercial and the residential side. On the main floor, you've got a retail office space that's small. It's designed for 1 to 3 people. So it works for small businesses particularly, or work from home executives. So it's a small, essentially the size of a 2 or 1 or 2 car garage. So kind of working out of your garage, you get to work out of a garage with a storefront, in a sense. And there's also an enclosed garage. And then there are living room, dining room, kitchen on the second floor, and bedrooms on the third. And then we've got some plans that we're playing with that have bedrooms on the second floor as well. So it's kind of a master on the main concept. They're for sale quality finishes. So these are considerably above an apartment project because they're designed they're designed with a custom home aesthetic. And all of our projects, we focus on durable exterior materials and water test our windows and all kinds of things. We try to focus on the things of what happens if no one maintained this for, decades, because that does happen. So we try to foolproof a lot of them. So Bloom NKC, our concept had a central alleyway, and the residential access is from the interior of that alley, and then the commercial is on the exterior. So there's a circular parking system where you're able to access the commercial from the exterior, a lot of pass-throughs. We identified a walking path on the property to the east, so we wanted to connect through to that to the cyclo-track and hopefully future streetcar track, and provide outdoor amenities. And these are a series of small mixed-use buildings. So while I went into detail on the vertical mixed-use townhome portion, there's 22 of those, I believe is the number. There's also 3 vertical mixed-use buildings as well. So the concept is a blend of all these different ideas in this background: modern industrial theme, vertical mixed use, opportunity for different uses in a vertical format, which has all kinds of walkability and entrepreneurship avenues that are important. Here's the view from the east side, looking down the corridor, reduced setback, and we have a individual parking on the west side, and then street parking on the east side, and then additional overflow parking on the north and south. Just a quick view of some of the buildings. We're calling this Building A. There's 2 of these on the south side. They're both a little bit different, but they are based off of certain North Kansas City historic buildings, actually current buildings that we liked and got to pull the different features and mash them together. And then this building is based on the Palmer House inspiration. So you can see we turned what used to be the filling station into a carport, and the main level commercial with residential on the top 2 floors. So it's a modern interpretation of the historic style. This is to give you just an idea of the front and rear of each of these buildings. The commercial faces outward, and then the residential is on the interior. This might be 1 generation old. There's a residential entry on each of these from the residential side that's not shown, but those are 1 and 2 car garages. They're tucked up underneath each unit. And so our plan is, if approved tonight, we would commence the rest of the due diligence. We've been working on this for a year now, so we've got a lot of the work we can do done to get to this point. But from here, we would start doing the standard due diligence of soil testing, making sure utilities are there, all of the nitty-gritty things to really execute on the plan, and then go in for final permitting with a goal of closing on the property in spring and breaking ground shortly after. And then it's about an 18-month time frame. That's for full completion. We stagger openings as we can, and then fall 2023 would be the time frame.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kim.
Do you guys have any questions for Bloom?
Councilmember Saper.
It may sound trivial, but North Kansas City has developed a fiber optic network that serves businesses and residences. And it seems to me that in all new developments, we should include that so that residents have complete access to that. What are your plans for your connectivity of these units?
So that's a good question. We've looked into, I'm blanking on the name of it. Is it Link?
Link City.
Link City, thank you. So we've talked, Justin was, that's why I'm deferring to him a little bit, but you spoke with Link City, and we would be including them as one of the options we'd explore and make the right choice, is probably the best I can say at the moment. It depends on which provider service the areas. Do you have a better answer to that? Because I know you led that effort.
Nope, we've spoken with them. Hi. Yeah, we have spoken with Link City, and they're aware of the project. And as soon as we hopefully when we get the green light, we will engage them further for more detailed proposals.
I guess my concern is going through this document, very large document. I would almost like to include that as a requirement for this project to go ahead. Because the city has invested a lot in Link City, and it's used by many, but there are many apartment residents and townhomes, if you will, that because of the fact that we didn't require it, don't have access to it. And I would like to leverage this in-place city utility so that it's available to as many residents in North Kansas City as businesses as possible.
Well, the totally understand the perspective, and we would absolutely, we're planning on investigating it as an option for the project, with an emphasis, if it makes sense, that's the one we plan to do. The difference is we have fairly technical needs on these projects. We've learned from our last one, where every individual, it's not like we provide a single hub like an apartment. So it's not as easy as providing service to an apartment. We actually have potentially future ownership for all of these parcels, and each one might have a different service provider. So to confirm and mandate a certain service provider, we would have to be a lot further along in the due diligence process to confirm that that is the specific provider that can handle both residential and commercial at the technical needs that we need. It'd be hard to commit upfront.
Can I just kind of clarify, I think, on what you're kind of the disconnect here? You want it to be connected to the building in some way, so that isn't viable. If that's what they want, fine. If they want to still go Spectrum, or, they're in their office down there and they have a different need. But we got to get the connection to the building.
I want it to be available to them no matter what. I mean, it doesn't, in other words, they can choose another provider, certainly. But I want that to be available to the building and the infrastructure to be there installed, that they can access that.
We'd love that too. I think that's a Link City question, though. I don't think we do anything on their behalf to bring it to us. So it ultimately ends up being a contract for the developer and the providers. And AT&T, for instance, brings the fiber into us. All we do is provide conduit from the locations where the junction boxes are out to the street. And then as people sign up for service, they bring it in through those conduits. So we'll provide the conduit, and then the users will determine who they use.
Part of the background for this question is that there are some apartment complexes that have worked out deals with certain providers in advance of their construction, which has prohibited Link City from providing that service. And I did not want to see that happen here.
We would definitely not prohibit them. The difference is an apartment has generally one provider for everybody, and the developer controls that. In this case, we have 25 different buildings. So we could mandate that for one building, but it'd be a difficult to execute. Similar to townhomes, it'd be like mandating it for a residential townhome project. It's problematic.
Thank you.
I think overall, because there are some red areas on the service map, they want basically this to be in the service area. I think he doesn't want to see the next spot on the map that becomes the area that doesn't have the service available. So, for whatever that's worth. There we go. And
Yep.
Councilmember Toll.
I just wanted to say that I love that you oriented it to the neighborhood. I think that will really pull it in. I like the reduced setback. I love the fact that you pulled from historic buildings in our city. And I'm feeling really good about this project. I have a question about the green space, which I know we had talked about before. So in order to have the parking for the residents and the commercial space, there's very little green space. So how do you plan to compensate for stormwater?
It's a good question for the Olson. We have I guess the short way to say it is, I think we brought this up before, because our site plan hasn't changed from the last version too. There's a parking study that needs to occur, and we're probably overparked. We're meeting the city's requirements, but because we have a mixture of uses, the plan is to create more.
I
green
remember
space.
you saying that,
Yeah.
now that you said it again. Thank you for saying that, yeah. I know that's a question that we'll get from our residents, because the other housing in the area does have a lot of green space built into it, but this is a unique space with the commercial space in it. Another question for people that might be watching, is it your goal that the offices will be sold individually? Are you maintaining those? Are you going to sell each office space? Like, I'm just a little explanation.
So I'm wondering if the way that these will be handled is it's done using a townhome plat, which is distinct from a condo plat, in that a condo plat is usually a 3D version where you can actually define the space in a 3D world environment. This is a townhome plat, so it exists usually on one piece of paper, just dicing up the ground, and an individual owner owns to the theoretical center of the earth and infinity of the sky, right? So you own that. Then there's common shared area. We do have we are using the opportunity zone that's present in the property, and one of those criteria is that it prohibits us from selling these units for 10 years. So it's designed as a for sale product, and that will be the ultimate goal of it. But for those 10 years, we can't sell it.
Yeah.
During that, so we lease them, and we have a purchase option program that allows people to secure their unit, build equity over time, and it's the closest we can get and operate within the opportunity zone and requirements.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, there is a building with smaller units that will remain rental, is that correct?
Yes, the building B, and I'll just slide through here, is the Palmer House building. Sorry, I went past it. This building here on the north side is a small mixed-use building that has apartments and not vertical mixed-use townhomes. So it's a vertical mixed-use building with commercial and residential. This will stay as one building and does not get condoed out.
Thank you for answering all my questions. I know we've seen it before, but this is the first time a lot of people are seeing it, so just trying to get all the information out there.
Sure.
On. There we go. Further council member comments.
Just a quick question that may have been covered about electric vehicle charging stations. Has that been thought of to put in place there, or?
We'd love to have them. We haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Further council member comments.
First reading. Second.
Second, there is a first and second. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. First reading carries.
An ordinance adopting and approving a development agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and Bloom NKC LLC for a certain development project in the city, and approving a real estate sale agreement between the city and Bloom NKC LLC.
I move that bill number 7631 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9428.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Toll?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance adopting and approving a development agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and Bloom NKC LLC for a certain development project in the city, and approving a real estate agreement between the city and Bloom NKC LLC.
And while she's between items here, I appreciate you guys coming out this evening. It was actually good to see you in person and excited for this project, so thank you. There, now I'll give you a short break.
Item 18, amendment to section 10.48.190, oversized vehicle parking. Bill number 7632, ordinance number 9429.
Kim.
I would like to call on the Chief of Police, Kevin Freeman.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Before you tonight, just a slight wording change in our parking code 1048.190. When we were looking into a parking complaint recently, we found our oversized vehicle ordinance had the terminology of the Uptown Business District, and it wasn't defined in that code, or in our research, we couldn't find it defined anywhere. So it made it very difficult for us to enforce our oversized vehicle load in this particular, or oversized vehicle parking ordinance in this particular case. So just slight wording change to the central business district for this ordinance, which is defined in our code and will be defined in the ordinance as presented. So,
Sounds simple enough. Are there any council member comments?
First reading.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed,
Yes.
no. First reading carries, I guess.
An ordinance amending section 10.48.190, oversized vehicles of chapter 10.48, stopping, standing, and parking of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that bill number 7632 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9429.
Second.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance amending section 10.48.190, oversized vehicles of chapter 10.48, stopping, standing, and parking of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri. Number 19, approving accounts due and payable by the city through October 1st, 2021. Bill number 7633, ordinance number 9430.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through October 1st, 2021.
I move that bill number 7633 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9430.
Call the roll, please.
Second.
Oh, now call the roll, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
7-0, motion carried. An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through October 1st, 2021.
Here we go. Staff comments. Kim.
I'd like to call Dick Hawkins, the finance manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. You may have noticed on your way in here that our utility drop box is currently locked. We have noticed that it's been tampered with, so the envelope that the envelope lid that residents would use to drop off their payments has been pried open slightly. We have made the decision to close that, keep that drop box locked so that at this current time, residents cannot use that to drop off their utility payments, but we are working on a safe alternative solution and will implement as soon as we are able to.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'd like to call on Anthony Sands.
There we go. He did it. She
Public
did it
Works
before I
Director.
did.
I'm sorry to
There we
steal
go.
your thunder.
I know.
Just wanted to give an update. It was mentioned the last council meeting about adding trash cans to the area of 26 and Fayette. We were able to deploy one, and we're also working with the school district to look at their use of trash cans around the high school.
Thank you.
Before I go into mine, are there any other staff members that would like to provide an update?
Yeah.
If not, no worries.
Otherwise, I'll call on Chief Argus this time.
Inside your packet is some information as well as the continued updates that we received from the hospital, just so everybody knows that is within the packet. I would like to bring up an upcoming work session, and we will be doing kind of an email to make sure that all the council members are present at the October 19th work session. One of the items that this particular council is charged with is redistricting, meaning we have received our census numbers, we have received that information in a platform that allows us to easily manipulate the data for map making. So, and again, we will touch base to make sure that everybody is at that particular work session. But we do anticipate having those maps available at October 19th's work session. We are up against a little bit of a clock, and some of that clock really is kind of outside of our hands. We weren't able to receive those census numbers, as you guys may or may not have read. We got that information late. We have the city council must have the public hearing and set the new ward boundaries before people can begin to register for candidacy. So the candidacy begins on December 7th, which means we have to have the new wards established by public hearing at the very latest, the second meeting in November. So we are up against a little bit of a tight schedule. It's totally doable, but we want to make sure that we give ample time, that the full city council is in attendance. We know that this is a big issue, and we want to make sure everybody is here so that our voices are heard. We will go into that kind of some of the restrictions. Redistricting and drawing census maps is highly regulated, as you can imagine. So there is some movement that we can do with the wards, but we are also heavily constrained by certain parameters laid out through legislation. So I did want to kind of bring that up. We will be deploying those maps through our social media on our website to allow residents to be able to look at the options and to provide you feedback before that work session. Again, our hope would be to put that public hearing on the November 2nd City Council meeting. We understand that maybe there's potential, additional dialogue. Again, we are heavily regulated on what we can and cannot do. So some of the options, specifically with the size of our city, really makes it more challenging to draw some of these lines than perhaps a larger municipality. But the very latest that we could have that public hearing and meet the mandates to have everything in place before filing begins would be November 16th. So I'm just kind of getting that on everybody's radar. I hate to be the timeline person.
I was getting ready to tell you to save a little for the meeting, though. Okay.
So I did want to get that out there. I know that a lot of people, might be viewing. This might be news to them that this is coming up. We do want to make sure that you guys are given an ample opportunity to be able to dialogue and hear from your constituents, but also with the understanding that the maps that you will be seeing, there's not going to be a whole lot of variation, and that's just because the process is heavily regulated.
Where is the census data, is that coming out soon? Have you sent that out to us before?
No, I have not.
Okay.
No, we have not sent out the census maps. Coming soon this week.
Okay.
Coming soon. Make it sound so exciting there. Good stuff. Appreciate that. Chief Argus, anything? The kids did see the fire department at school yesterday, I believe. That was their excitement of the day to come home and be excited about that. So I'll do a reverse comment here. Council member comments now. Council member Clark.
Yes. First of all, great turnout for Pint Path. That was a successful event. It was fantastic, great weather. So good job for everyone that participated. High-fived others that were participating. Good job. I don't think we had any major incidents in the city that I'm aware of. Just good feedback. Liz, Dave, Lisa, Lauren, thank you. I think it was Lisa. Thank you for your comments. It's always very helpful to hear back. I think it is rough when there's an assumption about our character in the references, because for me, I know as a city and what we're looking for is the goal is to be a self-sustaining city, and that comes with costs and upgrades and things like that. We're also helping people age in place. I know for Ward 4, I could have assumed that we all wanted new sidewalks, and I got feedback that no, they don't really. They want their yard space. They don't really want to infringe upon. So I wasn't going to push that issue. That is a feedback I got. We have different needs over in Ward 4 than you guys face in the avenues. So I just, I know that might be hard to be aware of if you haven't visited us over in the old town of Ward 4. But Tony, I appreciate your diligent, respectful, and thoughtful representation of your ward. I really appreciate your comments and your insight that you bring to the meetings, even if it's stuff that we're like, oh man, Tony's going to bring this up. But you know what? I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that even if we're not all in agreement, you are very respectful of everyone that's talking. So thank you. What else do I have? Oh, just for anyone that might be watching, or maybe for Liz, Dave, Lisa, you guys seem to be very engaged, and I like that. I want to reiterate that during our strategic planning session, infrastructure was a unanimous focus, and those things are underway. That has been something we've talked about multiple times, and even when Pat Haver was still in place, and Anthony Sands is taking the ball and rolling, and he's got things underway that we completely support. So just keep that in mind. And again, I appreciate the feedback.
Councilmember Palumbi.
I don't have a whole lot. I did want to say thank you to the residents that showed up today, and thank you for your comments. And I do want you to know that we do hear you, and we do share a lot of your concerns, and you are heard, and we do want everyone to feel like your needs are heard, and that we are not in any way playing any type of favoritism. Liz, I specifically wanted to thank you for bringing some of the comments about the modifications and the impact that we could make with this program, because I do think that everybody up here is pretty excited to kind of get the ball rolling and see what we can do to improve some of the conditions that some of our residents are living in. My second thing is, I always have to say something about COVID. So the good thing is numbers are starting to come down in Missouri and at the hospital. So that is good news for not just me, but everybody that lives here. But our vaccination rates are still under 50% for the state of Missouri. So I do have to plug that in there, that they're still available, and hopefully we see that number continue to go up. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilmember Graves.
I want to give some shout outs here. First and foremost, my son Waylon had a parent-teacher conference today. I want to give him a special shout out because he is a chip off the old block. And I was pretty nervous going into the parent conference, and the guy got a 15 out of 15 on his math test. The only kid in his second grade class with a 15 out of 15. So shout out Waylon. And also, I greatly appreciate all the public comments. And I hear from people all the time that they feel like they're not heard. And I've even asked people to come to talk to me, and they say, you know, I have all these concerns. And I say, go make a public comment. You know, we're listening to you. And they say, it won't make an impact. Well, tonight is a perfect example of people making public comments that had an instant impact on a policy decision. We increased the budget on a couple items today that will have a positive impact on our community. And so I want to applaud the people that took the time to come and speak up today, and I appreciate you guys. Also, I want to give some shout outs to some of the city staff that have been exemplary recently. Anthony Sands and Kim, we had a meeting regarding infrastructure, and we were talking about water lines, which is a big issue here in our community. We have a lot of old water lines, and it's one of these things I hear from residents. They act like we're ignoring these issues. We're not. It takes a long time. We talked about this a couple times tonight's meeting. We have to do a feasibility study, like look at the condition of the lines, where we have issues, where maybe we don't have issues, prioritize them, and so we can systematically go through and start replacing these items. And so they did a lot of research. We went through a big report. We had a meeting with the mayor, and it's something that's on our radar. It's very important to us. So we are working on these. We are listening to the community. And then also I want to give a special shout out to Chief Freeman, who took the time to have a meeting this week with myself and a resident that had some concerns, and he answered a massive amount of questions. We talked for over an hour, and he's always done a really great job with me as far as if I ever have a question or if a resident has a question, he always takes time to provide information, respond in a timely fashion. He's very thorough and transparent, and I really appreciate that about Chief Freeman. And then transition that into, there's an event this Saturday at noon that's called Faith in Blue. And so if you would like to come down, chat with the police, it's going to be down at the First Baptist Church this Saturday at noon. The event is called Faith in Blue, and come see us at the Baptist Church.
Thank you, Councilmember Saber.
I just like to thank the council for supporting Northland neighborhoods and rebuilding together Kansas City. Thank you.
There we go, Councilmember Toll.
I told Liz I would give the real numbers. Our COVID numbers, the last report we got was from September 29th. There were 35 total active COVID cases, 19 total recovering COVID cases, 16 total ICU COVID cases, and 11 of those 16 are on ventilators. And as Councilman Palumbi said, the numbers are trending down at the moment, but we were at 0 ICU patients on March 10th. So that's our goal. That's where we want to get. I think it's pretty typical for us to see the downtrend after several weeks of wearing masks. I think that shows that it's been helping, and I know we can get back down to 0 again, but also vaccination continues to be our best weapon against this. So if you've decided that you'd like to get vaccinated, or you know someone who does and you're not sure how to do it, please reach out to any of us up here or down there, and they would be able to get you set up. Okay? Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
I also had those COVID numbers written down for you, Liz, but Lisa got it for us. It is Fire Safety Awareness Month. I think that's the term. Is that right? Fire Safety Awareness. So go check your fire smoke detectors. Make sure you have a working fire extinguisher in the house, and make sure you're safe. And the other thing I'll mention, so I've heard a lot of feedback on the Howell Street improvements. I really like what's been done there. One thing I would note is the curb on southbound Howell at 27th. There's a pretty decent shadow that hits that most of the day from the trees. It's really hard to see the curb headed south, and I know that based on the amount of rubber I see on there, I think that people are having trouble detecting it. So I'm not sure if it needs to be painted or something to make it a little more visible. Just that one specific is seeming to be the biggest issue. That's all for me.
It'll be yellow for about a week.
Yeah.
Councilmember Clevenger, didn't forget you tonight.
You didn't forget me tonight. Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Just about 3 things. First of all, thanks for the streetscape, presentation again. And thank you for the emphasis on communication. And I know you guys will do a great job with that. And definitely communicate. You can never over-communicate. So, secondly, someone had addressed sidewalks, that they were asking for sidewalks in Ward 3 in the avenues. And I think in the avenues, most of our sidewalks are in good shape. They are uneven. They're up and down because of the driveways. I know some people have talked about, could they be made level, and then the ramps from the driveways, and that would just, I think, be such a huge project. But, I think they're in good shape. But if you do have a problem with a sidewalk or anything in the avenues, public works related, let us know, let the city know. They're always good about fixing things. Thirdly, just in the works, very preliminary, I'm going to try to do like a town hall for Ward 3. So Ward 3, if you're listening, maybe kind of get together and talk about the city. Maybe people talk about the vision for the city and kind of what they want to know about the city and what they want to see out of the city. So that's something to stay tuned for, and I'll push that out on my email list and Facebook. Other than that, everybody have a great night.
Can't wait. Thank you. I want to thank the police and fire department for their contributions on Walk to School Day. It seemed like a successful day. It was a perfect day to go out and take a stroll around the park there. Also, Future Hornet Night is this Friday from 5 to 7 out at the high school. I think they'll be giving away, I think it's free food for the kids and free admission to the game. Other items are $1. So Future Hornets can come out this Friday, 5 to 7. And, also another incident I realized, or I saw, as I was walking home from school with the kids the other day. As a resident berating an officer for some very sort of issue, and there's just no need for that. There's no need to berate any staff over any issue. If you want to go after people, you go after the governing body. We make the decisions. They implement it. That's true of all of our staff, whether that be community development, administration, legal counsel. I got to throw him in there somewhere. Even the police department. I mean, there's no need to treat people like that. There's no need to get on our police officers like that. Their job's hard enough the way it is already. And there's no need to go up and just make it worse. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Before I read the next number, I think I dropped the ball on something that you all may want to know about, but we are having the free flu shots. And I don't remember the dates for the rest of them. Do you, Casey?
Oh.
Tomorrow what?
We can email.
Okay.
We can send you
And
guys
I'll
that
send you
via
an email, but I realized I don't think I sent
And I
something
got-
out to you guys.
Now I got one more.
Okay.
The kids have behaved this evening for the most part, minus hacking up a lung on the one. Thank you, William and George, for the good behavior, and Anessa as well, for the very orderly conduct this evening. Thank you. I told them it was going to be a short meeting. I didn't know we were pulling a bunch of items off, so sorry.
Okay.
All yours, Crystal.
Crystal, do you need to bring anything to get the flu shot?
No.
No.
You You can
And is it for all ages?
It's for employees of the city.
It's for employees
board
and
members.
governing body.
Oh, got
So,
it.
but we would encourage everybody to get your flu shot this year. As everybody knows, with COVID, the hope would be to reduce flus, which that's kind of why she's bringing it up. It's very important for our workforce and for you as governing body members. Should you choose to, we would encourage everybody to get a flu shot this year to hopefully save a bed in our hospital.
Okay, item 23. Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session as requested by the city councilor to be held on this date, Tom, on a real estate matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610.0212.
So moved.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi?
Yes.
Councilmember Graves?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember Tull?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and the video feed will be cutting off shortly after we go into executive session here. There'll be no further business, votes, or discussion held after this. Thank you. Everyone have a good night.